So, Carl, I don't know how you feel about this one, but I, for one, welcome our PayPal overlords.
I mean, I'm not thrilled about the idea of an unaccountable social credit system being the dominant factor of our economic life online.
Too bad, because it's already been implemented pretty much. The only thing that they're missing is the will to actually just go ahead with it, just to throw aside all phoniness and all sorts of subtlety and just say, okay, we are evil overlords, we control the finances, we control everything, you have to submit.
Off. Yes, we're evil.
Yeah, if they just go mask off, but they've just not quite got there yet, because at the end of the day, Silicon Valley and all of these tech companies are still run by spineless nerds.
They don't feel they've quite got it. They've got the tendrils in yet. Right?
Yeah, when their rich, spoilt, chatty kids end up taking over the companies, that's when we'll get the true tyranny. Don't worry. But this is all stuff that I have discussed recently in my video, Central Bank Digital. I really should have shortened this title. Central Bank Digital Currencies are the next step to social credit scores, because
that is true, though.
Yeah, it is true, and we can see through things like I'm going to be discussing with what PayPal is doing, how if you control the financial system, which is incredibly easy when all of our finance is just imaginary paper money
and especially
dispensed to you by the government.
And when it's all centralized on one website called PayPal.
Yeah, and emphasis on the PAL there.
Yeah.
It becomes increasingly easy to control the population and control what you're allowed to do. And I explored this through the subject of Black Mirror's episode 15 Million Merits. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I have.
Yes, it's also relevant to the one, I think it's the one where they've got the app that you can rate each other and give each other a star score. It's also relevant to that sort of stuff, but it's a good demonstration of how if you control how people get money, if you can control what people can spend money on, etc., all of a sudden you just control them in their totality.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on to the relevant subject itself, PayPal recently released a new policy update where they announced that they were going to pull $2,500 from users' accounts if they promoted misinformation.
I mean, that's just the most evil thing I can imagine.
And that's mask off.
Yeah.
And they really scrambled to get the mask back on.
I mean, 2,500, that's an incredibly large and arbitrary amount. If it was £15, it'd be too much.
Well, if it was any amount, but $2,500, especially given that most people probably at any one time don't necessarily have that much in their account, especially one that they have hooked up to PayPal.
Yeah. But of course,
that could put you into an overdraft and screw you over with your bank as well.
Absolutely. But of course, secondly, who's the arbiter of what misinformation is? How are they going to fact check this? Who imbued them with the authority to make sure that nobody is allowed to say something incorrect?
Well, misinformation just means not approved by regime experts.
Yeah.
It's the expert class that the regime has got at the moment. Whatever they say goes. If you disagree with them, sorry, you're not allowed your money anymore.
You're not allowed your money. We're going to take your money.
Yeah. I mean,
that's worse.
But Daily Wire writes here, the financial services company, which has repeatedly deplatformed organisations and individual commentators for their political views. Was it you that they deplatformed at one point?
They've deplatformed, it was most recently the Free Speech Union.
Yes, they mentioned that in here. They will expand its existing list
misinformation.
It will expand its existing list of prohibited activities on November 3rd. Among the changes are prohibitions on the sending, posting, or publication of any messages, content, or materials that promote misinformation or present a risk to user safety or well-being. Users are also barred from promotion of hate, violence, racial, or other forms of intolerance that is also discriminatory. So no one can use PayPal now because I don't think anybody is entirely innocent of any of those online.
Black Lives Matter not deplatformed from PayPal.
Though. No, the company's current acceptable use policy does not mention such activities, and the policy only applies to actions taken using PayPal's platform. So supposedly if you're sending money to a friend or family and you go, here you go, N, I know you needed that money, G, here you are, then you get taken off. But we know that that's not how these things actually work. What happens is
That's a really funny way of doing it, to be honest.
Just a little message with the money you're sending over.
Yeah, here's some money and then just racial slurs. Be funny.
I think we should, I
mean, don't do it, obviously, because PayPal will take you down.
As an active protest, perhaps some should consider it.
Just funny. I mean,
Yeah, but we know that that's not how it actually works. It doesn't only get applied if you're on the platform and it's done using the platform. Obviously, they'll check your other social media. If you're some kind of part of an organization that's high profile, or if you're a high profile individual yourself, if there's anything that you do that's remotely John's saying we need to start paying our salary with that. I agree, Carl.
Maybe, carry on.
All right. But no, they'll take a look at all your other socials, and if anything controversial happens that's related to your name, they'll just take you straight off, including the Free Speech Union. What was it that they were defending recently? Free speech, I
presume, yeah.
Which apparently is misinformation, according to PayPal.
I don't think it was the Free Speech Union per se, actually. I think it was Toby Young's Daily Skeptic, in which they had been critical of verboten subjects on social media.
Of course, but they say, and if you're wondering about who gets to decide it, how it gets decided, well, they'll just say deliberations will be made at the sole discretion of PayPal and may subject the user to damages. What? So we decide what's misinformation and what isn't.
Just making this up, let's pull this up for us. Yeah, $2,500. We get to decide. Isn't it great to have all the power in this relationship?
Yeah, and those damages can include the removal of $2,500 debited directly from your PayPal account. And of course, if you don't have the money in your account already, they'll take it straight from your bank account, which could screw you over if you don't have the money.
Jesus Christ.
I know, it's pretty...
PayPal just sat there, how could we be really evil? We haven't been evil enough today. We need to be more evil.
Company's user agreement contains a provision in which account holders acknowledge that the figure is presently a reasonable minimum estimate of PayPal's actual damages. So what they're saying there is they could up it.
But damages? Like what? Oh, PayPal has been severely damaged because someone we don't like used our service.
If I ask for proof, do they just send me a picture of their offices crying?
But due to the violations and damage to the company's reputation. Right. So if a Nazi uses PayPal to transfer money to his mum or something, but like, oh, well, I mean, PayPal's reputation has been so damaged.
Carl.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. No one thinks, oh, well, PayPal is an evil platform now. That's ridiculous.
No, it is ridiculous, and it's obviously just an attempt to punish political enemies.
Yeah. And make money.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, if they tried to do something like that, it's just theft and is completely unacceptable.
Yes.
But I got some stats up about PayPal just to remind everybody how powerful an organization they are and how far-reaching a decision like this can be, because currently they've got 429 million registered users as of 2022, according to Statista, which is very interesting because that's larger than the population of the US.
Yeah.
They've 87.5% of online buyers use PayPal. PayPal had $5.46 billion in net revenue in 2020, so it's probably gone up since then. PayPal accounts for 22% of online transactions in the US. PayPal has invested $500 million in Uber. It shares its users' data with over 600 other companies, but they swear that it's all done encoded and all that sort of stuff. We make sure to protect your data.
Share.
Yeah. And they also own another payment processor called Venmo, which handled $12 billion worth of transactions in 2020. So imagine a world in which you spread misinformation. Whether you know at the time or not, apparently you can't know because it's at the sole discretion of PayPal.
It might change tomorrow, but who knows?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you can't use an Uber. They steal $2,500 from you, and then you're cut off from using 600 other companies. And this is the kind of web that they create with these gigantic financial services. And why all of a sudden, when they control all of your finances, you can suddenly be shut off from a lot of places in life. But the article carries on, saying, under existing law, PayPal has the ability as a private company to implement this type of viewpoint discriminatory policy, according to Aaron Turr, a senior program officer at the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. Whatever motivation PayPal has for establishing these vague new categories of prohibited expression, they will almost certainly have a severe chilling effect on users' speech. As is often the case with ill-defined and viewpoint discriminatory speech codes, those with unpopular or minority viewpoints will likely bear the brunt of these restrictions.
It's like PayPal is being run by Dr. Evil.
I just generally assume that everywhere is nowadays.
Yeah. Well, whatever their motivation. Well, I'm guessing world domination.
I mean, it's pretty globalist. So wasn't his organization, his cover organization, called something like Global Corp or something like that as well?
Probably.
So if you follow all these, there's probably some gigantic mega corporation with a bald guy with an equally bald cat running it all.
With some sort of moon base.
Yeah, and they carry on. They explicitly say what you were talking about there. So the move comes after PayPal cancelled 3 accounts linked to Toby Young, a commenter who runs a non-profit called the Free Speech Union. They defended people like Russell Brand, who has said verboten information, as you said, regarding certain developments over the past few years. They later restored the accounts after receiving criticism from lawmakers and apologised to Young for any inconvenience caused. They also sanctioned Gays Against Groomers, a group that opposes the sexualisation of children. So PayPal is...
run by evil paedophiles, apparently.
Pals with Nambler, I assume. That's what I'm taking away from this. But at this point, they are just, like, not to... no pun intended here, but they are just rubbing it in our faces. That they just can control us now at this point.
Total domination.
The only reason that they decided to back away from keeping the Toby Young affiliates off the platform is because of the criticism they received. If they had...
threats of legal action, I imagine.
I would imagine
changing
that.
the law.
But if they decided that they wanted to fight against these sorts of things, they probably would have the financial and legal power backed up to do it.
Sure,
they just decide not to because they're cowards, and that's the only thing we could really rely on at the moment. Is the fact that they're cowards.
I mean, you would think that just governments would start legislating. You know, if they're in the interests of their actual citizens, they'd be like, we're just going to not allow that. You know.
Well, you know, if say somebody like Ron DeSantis was in charge of the US right now, or Donald Trump would probably start legislating it. If I was in charge, I'd start legislating against this BS. To be honest.
Oh yeah.
But they did eventually backtrack. After all, it was only an accident that they put that information in the newest update.
Just a mistake, guys. I know this has been written out by a team of lawyers. And it's detailed. It's 2 paragraphs long, and it's explaining exactly what you can't do, and if you do, and what we're going to do. How did that get in there?
Listen, for that section, we had a bunch of monkeys with typewriters, and it just happened that way, guys. What can I say?
Copy and pasted from theirs to... you know how it goes.
Yeah, it happens easily.
Absolute bull.
They only announced, of course, that it was a mistake after Elon Musk and a bunch of other notable businessmen decided to come out and say, hey, guys, that's evil. Don't know if this might surprise you or not.
After
that's
Hank
kind of evil.
has to come out and be like, maybe.
Guys, this is going a little bit too far here. Gosh. So they reversed their decision to fine the users for violating terms of services after Elon Musk and a former executive left a furious backlash against the move on social media. Elon Musk, of course, used to be, I think, an executive.
He helped found it.
Yeah, he did help found PayPal as well. So he's still, by the sounds of it, got some influence and say
he's got
in
100 million Twitter followers, so
that also helps. In a tweet Saturday, former PayPal president David Marcus spoke out against the new policy. It's hard for me to openly criticize a company I used to love and gave so much to, but PayPal's new AUP goes against everything I believe in. A private company now gets to decide to take your money if you say something they disagree with. Insanity. Agreed, wrote Musk in a reply.
Marcus, you're the president of PayPal.
Former president.
Oh, former president. Right, okay. So who's the current president?
I don't know, actually.
Literally Dr. Evil, probably.
I assume so. But I find it funny because Elon Musk, you know, you can criticize him, but he's a bit of a dissident on in the Twitter sphere.
Yeah.
And one of the other co-founders of PayPal is Peter Thiel, of all people, known Yarvin associate.
Yeah.
Can you imagine them both looking at their company going, what did we do? What have we created?
I imagine they're all sat there thinking, we shouldn't have sold that.
Or
shouldn't have sold it.
I'd be like Frankenstein looking at my monster that I've created going, what have I done?
But this is why I genuinely think this is why Zuckerberg isn't giving up his shares in Facebook. Is because look at what happens. Who's got control of it now? Look at what you've created. You've created this giant monster, and at least when you were riding on the back of it, you had some measure of control, so you could stop it from steamrolling through a village or something. Who can stop PayPal?
Because if nothing else, Facebook is at least not as extreme as Twitter and other organisations.
And Facebook isn't threatening to just take thousands of dollars off me for promoting misinformation.
Not yet.
Well, they've got no function to do it.
Not yet.
But
once they're hooked up to PayPal and you have to pay a monthly subscription to use the service. Although if they did that, they'd go out of business.
Thank God.
But the criticism from Marcus and Musk was on the board of directors, who was on the board of directors and briefly CEO of PayPal during its early days, were at the front of a furious backlash to the proposed policy. Get your money out of PayPal right now, said venture capitalist David Sachs. The misinformation police are now extending their reach beyond your social media accounts and into your financial accounts, said Vivek Ramaswamy. PayPal probably isn't protected by Section 230, so it could face legal liability in states with political non-discrimination statutes, which is a good point. The backlash prompted PayPal to walk back the new policy. An AUP notice recently went out in error that contained incorrect information.
So you must have had like 30 lawyers poring over this who are being paid six figures a year. So do they get held accountable?
I guess like Chris Carber, they just couldn't read either.
Yeah, but just, PayPal are like, yeah, so this went out in error. This has cost us probably billions of dollars. Are we going to fire anyone for that? No one's going to get fired.
No.
Because this didn't go out in error. The only error is that you went too quickly. You thought you had the power to do it now, and you are surprised by the backlash.
I mean, that is a good point, because give it a few months and they'll probably try and slip something else exactly like this in again, and it just will try and be worded in a way that's not as high profile. PayPal is not fining people for misinformation, and this language was never intended to be inserted into our policy. It just happened to fall there. Somebody slipped and knocked a page into the documents. Our teams are working to correct our policy pages. So, despite this obvious BS, I think we should all just recognise that PayPal's an enemy.
I don't know how else to describe it.
There's no other way to look at them.
PayPal is controlled by enemies anyway. Either way.
And until such time as we can recognise that they are no longer run by our enemies, we just don't use them. Just don't use PayPal. For your own good, really, because who knows when they are going to implement this absolute nonsense policy, and all of a sudden you could be in the crosshairs. So get off PayPal, and just a reminder of the sorts of things that can happen when, big financial companies are able to control the flow of money and what it can be used for. Earlier this year, nice reminder, GoFundMe seized the funds of the Canadian protesters after the protesters went outside and did their best geese impersonation at the Canadian Parliament.
PayPal is wide awake and has a will of its own.
And this was taken over by GiveSendGo, who took the money instead and processed it for the protesters, which was very nice of them. And it's good to know that there are companies that do believe in free speech and have our backs. But this is the danger of these gigantic financial companies. Because remember, what it is that they're going to classify as being misinformation is not going to be, say, you calling the earth flat or something like that. Not that you should be punished for saying such a stupid thing anyway.
No.
It's going to be ideological attacks. For instance, how long until J.K. Rowling starts to get financial sanctions placed against her?
Well, she is being discriminatory against trans people.
I know, and she's misrepresenting the D-trans. She's just using those D-trans people as a political tool to further her own narrative. There's no interest in these D-trans people actively, coming out and saying this was terrible, what happened to her. Like J.K. Rowling sharing something like this, where a woman, Captain Silver Lining, says the amount of detransitioners in the D-trans group I'm in asking if their breasts will grow back after a mastectomy is concerning. They're really doing these surgeries on people who don't know what the F is going on. Now that sounds like misinformation to me, being spread by the people telling them that it'll be absolutely fine. Sure. She carries on with a little quote under here where she's saying, people are questioning whether this is true. If you scroll down, John. The comment below was posted by a detransitioner I know in real life and whose truthfulness and integrity I can vouch for. The first time a young detrans woman asked me this, my jaw hit the floor. She thought once she came off T, or once her estrogen levels returned to normal, she'd grow her breasts back. How are these uninformed young people being cleared for irreversible surgeries? I agree with PayPal here that somebody should be punished. Somebody should be punished at the very least. But I feel like I would disagree with PayPal on who needs to be punished.
Yeah.
Whoever it is feeding these poor people such wrong information should be in prison, at the very least.
Anyway.
And Boston Children's Hospital also spread some misinformation recently when they said that kids know that they're trans from the womb in a video that they subsequently deleted. Interesting. At least maybe they caught wind.
Babies don't know anything.
No, of course. But this is very interesting because if you recognise what's going on here, they say that a good portion of children know their gender identity from the womb. So this means, given a level of awareness, that if you're in the womb, you're alive, you're a baby, you're a human being. So surely doing certain things would be a murder.
Good anti-abortion argument there from the Boston Children's Hospital.
Yes, thank you for reinforcing my arguments. And Jon Stewart also has become a arch misinformation fighter by spreading misinformation on the medicalization of transitioning young children.
Oh, really? Did he say that it's not permanent and can be reversed?
Close enough.
Yeah.
Close enough. He delved into the national conversation surrounding gender ideology in his latest episode of The Problem with Jon Stewart. And I want to know what the problem is as well.
I love the title of the show, The Problem with Jon Stewart. Oh, there are many. There are many. We could do a deep dive on this at some point.
We should do a deep dive. Yeah. In doing so, he fully endorsed medical transition for children and teens.
That's one of the problems with Jon Stewart.
There you go. He's an insufferable woke retard, for one.
Yeah.
He spoke to Leslie Rutledge, Attorney General for Arkansas, and went into the interview with the idea that he needed to re-educate her, that he was an expert on gender dysphoria in trans youth. Arkansas had banned the practice. Based Arkansas.
Yeah.
To bolster his claims that drugging children who are experiencing gender dysphoria is the appropriate treatment. I do like the way that they're framing it in the post-millennial here.
Taking no prisoners with this framing.
Yep. Stewart cited medical experts at the American Medical Association who have called on Biden's Department of Justice to censor and suppress those who speak out against the medical gender transition of minors, claiming that this is misinformation. And there you go. And you can see the tweet that I've got next.
Value judgments.
Where they were actively promoting this as well in the tweet over, where they're like, I spoke to this woman and asked her about why her state banned gender-affirming care for minors, ignoring the guidelines of major medical organisations and taking the decision out of parents' hands. So he's calling for rule by experts.
You're taking the decision out of parents' hands, whether they want to castrate their children or not. Yeah,
yes.
We're taking that decision out of their hands.
Good. You know what? The state might also take the decision out of parents' hands whether to smother their babies, for instance. We might take that out of their hands as well. We're going to make the decision for you. Don't do it. But obviously, PayPal is going to support this kind of spreading of misinformation and not the other kind of spreading of misinformation that they deem to be misinformation, because they think this is absolutely fine. Because we are under a regime, ladies and gentlemen, a regime that hates you. So get away from PayPal, get away from all those sorts of financial institutions, and hope for the best, I suppose. Thanks for watching that segment from the podcast Lotus Eaters. If you enjoyed that and want to find more, you can subscribe to our website and become a premium member to access all of our exclusive content, including this recent video I did with Connor, the politics and philosophy of the Snyderverse. And if you'd like to find more from Connor himself, you can find him on Getter at @Con_Tomlinson. Thank you and goodbye.